Why do we have to fight?
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 Jon Stewart moments from The Daily Show and beyond.
And chaos, it can't sustain itself. It never could.
Number 20, George Carlin Interview. George Carlin, 40 years of comedy. It should come as no surprise that Stewart has cited legendary comedian George Carlin as an influence.
Watching you work is almost like watching a musician. You know, the way you weave words and use language for emphasis and all that. Was that always a fascination for you, even as a kid?
Well, to go backwards with the question, don't forget what we do is oratory. It's rhetoric.
Both he and the late Carlin are famous for using their wit and words to point out hypocrisy from those in power and other societal issues. In 1997, Stewart hosted the special honoring Carlin and his career. He also sat down with him for an interview, which provided invaluable insight into one of the greatest comedic minds of all time.
Gotta have luck in this world. Part of it's your genetic makeup, that's luck. And then what you do with it is also partly genetic, because hard work is genetic. The desire to do hard work, the willingness to work hard.
Stewart is clearly enthralled to be in the presence of one of his idols, but he also knows how to ask pointed questions that inspire meaningful responses.
Why do you still care so much?
Well, I'm not comparing myself to any of these people, believe me. But you wouldn't say to Picasso, when are you going to put those brushes down? Get rid of the canvas, you've done it.
As both a comedian and an interviewer, Stewart has clearly learned from the best.
It's been great to get to know you a little, and you are going to show us a lot, and I look forward to it.
Thank you very much, sir.
You.
I appreciate it. George Carlin, ladies and gentlemen.
Number 19, Cheneys Got a Gun, The Daily Show. In 2006, then Vice President Dick Cheney accidentally shot attorney Harry Whittington during a quail hunt,
Making 78-year-old Harry Whittington the first person shot by a sitting Veep since Alexander Hamilton.
Naturally, late-night talk show comedians jumped on this incident, but it's Stewart's take that's truly worth preserving. Before diving in, he gives thanks for what is sure to be a comedy goldmine.
Thank you, Jesus.
But Stewart doesn't just rely on the absurdity of the incident for laughs. He also finds other layers, such as questioning the concept of the hunting expedition in question.
The vice president and two others got out of the car to walk up the covey.
What kind of hunting story begins with getting out of your car?
He also deftly ribs the VP's behavior in the aftermath before leaving parents watching at home with some valuable wisdom.
Don't let your kids go hunting with the vice president.
Number 18, Indecision 2004, The Daily Show. Stewart's tenure hosting The Daily Show was full of highlights from beginning to end. But arguably, he was at the height of his powers during the 2004 U.S. presidential election.
The 2004 presidential election is well underway. The two major parties are very much in the thick of the battle.
Stewart and his equally hilarious correspondents offered the perfect skewering of that year's political contest and the various players involved, including incumbent President George W. Bush and Democratic challenger Senator John Kerry.
Office work. Ordering some office supplies, approving expense reports, figuring out what he stands for.
And what ensued was must-watch television that still holds up 2 decades later. This coverage, equal parts informative and uproarious, earned Stewart's Daily Show its second Peabody Award. Making political satire this funny is serious business.
But we thank you so much, and we can't wait to come back to another unbelievably long lunch.
Number 17, Bush v. Bush, The Daily Show. If there's one area in which Stewart particularly excels, it's in pointing out hypocrisies, particularly those from elected officials.
Mr. President, is the idea to just build a new country that we like better?
We will tear down the apparatus of terror, and we will help you to build a new Iraq that is prosperous and free. I don't think our troops ought to be used for what's called nation building.
In this segment from 2003, Stewart uses video evidence to show the contrasts between George W. Bush, the presidential candidate, and George W. Bush, the president. Namely, he points out how the 43rd president did and said things that contradicted statements made on the road to the White House.
But then, Governor, answer this. How do you propose we nation build? Would you use diplomacy?
Let me say this to you. I wouldn't use force. I wouldn't use force.
Bush is obviously not the first nor the last politician to not live up to their words on the campaign trail, but the clever editing and Stewart's commitment to the bit make this a masterful demonstration of his abilities.
And may God continue to bless America.
Wow. Incredibly insincere. Governor, can you top that?
Thanks from the bottom of my heart.
Nice. Wow.
Number 16, Defending Trans Rights, The Problem with Jon Stewart. In the second season premiere of his Apple TV Plus show, Stewart addressed the ongoing moral panic regarding issues of gender, particularly trans rights.
What could justify this unprecedented urgency? Did trans people storm the Capitol?
He alludes to his own history of making insensitive jokes on the subject while also demonstrating growth since then. The best part of the episode comes towards the end, as Stewart sits down with Arkansas Attorney General Leslie Rutledge to talk about a ban on gender-affirming care for trans youth.
98%
Wow.
without that medical treatment.
That's an incredibly made-up figure. That doesn't...
Stewart has clearly done his homework, as he cuts through Rutledge's claims with strong counter-arguments. While there's plenty of misinformation about the trans community, we're grateful to have Stewart standing up for truth and compassion. Number 15, First Interview with Barack Obama, The Daily Show. Jon Stewart had interviewed both former presidents and presidential hopefuls in the past, but the prospect of interviewing a sitting president always seemed too far away. That is, until President Obama agreed to an interview in October of 2010.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry. That's all the time we have.
Obama had appeared on the show before, but the stakes were very clearly different this time around. Stewart held the president's feet to the fire, contrasting the campaign of hope he ran on with the results of his first 2 years in Washington.
How did we go in 2 years from hope and change, we are the people we've been looking for, to you're not going to give them the keys, are you?
The interview showed how much Stewart's position in the media landscape had shifted since he started, and that he was able to stand toe-to-toe with the most powerful man in the world.
We have done things that some folks don't even know about.
What have you done that we don't know about?
Well,
Number 14, Trump Pizza Rant, The Daily Show. When former Alaskan Governor Sarah Palin came to the Big Apple to meet with future President of the United States Donald Trump, Stewart was initially pleased at their choice of meal, New York pizza.
You know what? Slice of pizza. Respect.
He became skeptical, though, when the Donald took her to a run-of-the-mill pizza place. Strike two came when it was revealed that Trump stacks his slices on top of each other.
Son of a bitch! Mother... And you stack your slices, Donald?
The final blow came when true New Yorker Donald Trump was filmed eating his pizza with a fork.
Are you eating it with a fork? A f***ing fork! Ah!
This led to a rant for the ages from Jon, validating the sacred item that is New York pizza, and even questioning Trump's claim of being a true New Yorker.
Donald Trump, why don't you just take that fork and stick it right in New York's eye?
Number 13, Conservative Libertarian, aka Burning Glenn Beck, The Daily Show. Republican pundit Glenn Beck moved to Fox News from HLN in 2009, and his visibility skyrocketed despite some questionable views and actions. Stewart, meanwhile, found the animated conservative a target ripe for parody.
I don't want to be a slave prisoner, but it's your ideology. I guess libertarian somehow mitigates. Well, let's look at that. Lie! Lie!
Through a series of segments over the course of Beck's run on Fox News, Stewart performed a pitch-perfect impression of Beck's crazy mannerisms and outlandish theories.
Why did they spell it without the Y? They took out the Y because they don't want you asking that question.
The impression reached its peak with Conservative Libertarian, where Jon attempted to connect progressivism to everything from Nazism to Bert from Sesame Street using printed pictures and blackboards. Despite the massive praise the segments received, Jon never did performance art of this scale on the show again, proving Beck was truly a one-of-a-kind figure, for better or worse.
Tell me, word on the board, who is doing the lying? Aryans! Aryans! Holy!
Number 12, You Don't Own This Country, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. After a crazy week involving the resignation of Roger Ailes from Fox News and the Republican National Convention, Stephen Colbert wished for someone to share his emotions with. Luckily, Jon Stewart emerged from under Colbert's desk and asked to get something off his chest.
Lack of pleasure with.
From there, he embarked on an epic rant railing against the Republican Party, Fox News, and Donald Trump for the mess that took place in Cleveland that week. It concluded with an emotionally charged tirade that told the right that they don't and never have owned America.
This country isn't yours. You don't own it. It never was. There is no real America. You don't own it.
It was a brief but fantastic return to what made Jon famous, and he thankfully made subsequent appearances on The Late Show once the Trump administration began.
He's lying on purpose. You know how?
How?
Because he constantly says the phrase, believe me.
Number 11. Owning Jim Cramer, The Daily Show. Following a week of Jon bashing CNBC for their failure to warn consumers of the 2008 financial crisis, Mad Money host Jim Cramer came on the show after speaking out against Jon's criticism of the network. While the interview started off civil, Stewart ultimately tore into Cramer, asking him what he thought the purpose of CNBC should be, and even exposing his own hypocrisy by playing clips of him from a 2006 interview.
I'm not gonna say it on TV. It's on TV now.
These clips were responsible for inducting the phrase Roll 212 into the Daily Show lexicon, basically as code for your career is over.
I mean, if I may, just roll 212.
It's your show, for heaven's sake.
Roll 212.
No, not 212.
Stewart was praised for his passion and integrity during the interview, even though it didn't really affect Cramer.
I can't reconcile the brilliance and knowledge that you have of the intricacies of the market with the crazy bullshit I see you do every night.
Fair enough.
Number 10. Discussing gun laws. The problem with Jon Stewart. An issue as contentious as gun policy in America inspires some very heated opinions. So it makes total sense for Stewart to cover it.
By the way, just for clarity's sake, I'm not against the Second Amendment. I don't want to ban guns. But you're saying more guns makes us more safe.
Yes.
Speaking with Oklahoma State Senator and gun proponent Nathan Dahm, Stewart delves into this fierce debate. Addressing the rise in gun-related deaths, he points out that the argument that wider availability of guns leads to increased safety doesn't hold water.
When the police go to a domestic call, it's the most dangerous call they can go on. Mm-hmm. In your world, if they knew that there were firearms in the house, that's a safer call. Is that what you're saying?
Without demonizing responsible gun owners, Stewart shrewdly argues for sensible regulations and how they would help protect people. He may not have changed Dom's mind, but he sure gave him a lot to think about.
That's what it is. It's firearms. More than cancer, more than car accidents.
Number 9. Daily Show return. The Daily Show. When it was announced that Stewart would be temporarily returning to host The Daily Show every Monday, the excitement was palpable. But with this anticipation came some questions. Namely, had he lost his touch at all?
Now, where was I?
Such fears were quickly assuaged as Stewart effortlessly resumed the role he had nearly a decade ago, talking about the likely rematch for the presidency between current President Biden and former President Trump. Stewart airs his frustration in the way only he can.
They are the oldest people ever to run for president, breaking by only 4 years the record that they set!
In his first episode back, Stewart reminded us exactly why he's inspired such a passionate following.
So the good news is, I'm not saying you don't have to worry about who wins the election. I'm saying you have to worry about every day before it and every day after. Forever.
Number 8. Rally to restore sanity and/or fear. Though Stewart's brand of political comedy is full of takedowns against influential figures, he cares more about meaningful change in discourse than scoring points over anyone.
Sanity will always be and has always been in the eye of the beholder.
This was underlined by the Rally to Restore Sanity and/or Fear, a rally hosted by Stewart and Stephen Colbert's conservative alter ego.
Oh, I think I have something in my pocket. It's your mojo. I took it.
Designed to push back against inflammatory rhetoric, this rally drew massive coverage and a massive crowd to Washington, D.C.'s National Mall, with an estimated crowd size of 215,000 people. Plenty of other stars appeared at the rally, but it was still Stewart who shined brightest of all.
To see you here today and the kind of people that you are has restored mine.
Number 7, owning Bill O'Reilly, the O'Reilly Factor.
Despite Fox News being one of the main targets of The Daily Show, Jon Stewart and Bill O'Reilly always managed to maintain a civil, if competitive, relationship. The two appeared on each other's shows several times, but the best moments were when Stewart was on O'Reilly's turf.
It sounds like what you're saying is, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't want to be wrong when I'm with you, because you know I got mad love for you. That's a rap phrase.
I got it.
There, the two debated everything, including Jon's role as a comedian, Obama inviting rapper Common to the White House, and the threat of terrorism. With a couple of exceptions of dramatic embellishment, the two kept their conversations restrained and respectful.
Guess who wrote a song about Leonard Peltier?
Yeah.
Bono.
Okay.
Guess where he was? The White House. Booyah!
Stewart's appearances showed he was more than able to hold his own against O'Reilly, even out of his element, and made smart, relevant points in the process.
Let me tell you something.
Very well.
That's not the only thing you like about me. I'm like a shot of Levittown, right in your ass like a B-12. Boom!
Number 6, Mark Twain Prize acceptance speech, the Kennedy Center Mark Twain Prize for American Humor. It's only fitting that Stewart was awarded a prize named for one of the most renowned satirists ever known.
When I first got the call from the Kennedy Center, I would receive the Twain Prize. I said to my wife, don't give them any of our credit card information.
The Mark Twain Prize for American Humor is an honor bestowed upon comedians who have made an undeniable impact on society. And many, including members of Stewart's Daily Show staff, paid touching and humorous tribute to their former boss.
So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for everything, Jon, wherever you are.
When it was his turn to speak, Stewart was honored and humbled, speaking from the heart about his journey and the people who've inspired him. Stewart shows his wonderfully relatable side.
If any of you want to have a transcendent experience, get in the car with your daughter and drive down the Jersey Shore and listen to J. Cole, She's Mine, Parts 1 and 2.
Best of all, he leaves us feeling inspired about the hope of a better world.
That what we have is fragile and precious. And the way to guard against it isn't to change how audiences think. It's to change how leaders lead.
Number 5, interview with Malala Yousafzai, The Daily Show.
For a guy who meets with everyone from movie stars to world leaders, you wouldn't expect Jon Stewart to be humbled by much. However, he was reduced to childlike wonder and amazement when he met with Pakistani activist and Nobel Prize laureate Malala Yousafzai.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. It's an honor for me.
It is an honor for us. I know me.
As Malala relayed her inspirational story to Jon, he couldn't help but listen with his hands up to his face, reduced to speechlessness at the amazing things she said.
And I would tell him, that's what I want to tell you, now do what you want.
Malala remained a source of inspiration for Jon and The Daily Show, as her one-of-a-kind activism brought light after some of the darkest times in recent history.
I will say this, I don't know where you come from, but I am very glad you're here.
Number 4, Daily Show Farewell, The Daily Show. When Jon Stewart first announced he would be leaving The Daily Show, it didn't feel real.
It is time for someone else to have that opportunity. And,
After more than 16 years behind the desk, Stewart had gone from late-night host to cultural icon. His final episode was everything you would hope for, with past correspondence and plenty of other exciting cameos.
I'm Jon Stewart. I'm dumb. I'm stupid. Nah. So long, jackass.
But as it often goes with Stewart, the best part was just hearing him speaking with self-deprecating sincerity.
This show isn't ending. We're merely taking a small pause in the conversation. A conversation which, by the way, I have hogged, and I apologize for that.
In the closing moments of the show, he talked about his immense gratitude for the job and those who helped make it possible. Now that's how you do a proper goodbye.
Rather than saying goodbye or good night, I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna go get a drink. And I'm sure I'll see you guys before I leave.
Number 3, crushing Crossfire. Crossfire.
The political debate show Crossfire had been a staple of CNN's lineup since 1982. Then, Jon Stewart came to visit. While hosts Paul Begala and Tucker Carlson thought Stewart was coming on to promote America the Book, he was really there to ask them to stop hurting America.
Here's just what I wanted to tell you guys. Yeah. Stop. Stop hurting America. Okay.
He spent the whole segment taking the show and the host to task, calling it partisan hackery, and saying that instead of nuanced debate, they just showcased both extremes of the political spectrum.
If your idea of confronting me is that I don't ask hard-hitting enough news questions, we're in bad shape, fellas.
The confrontation even resulted in Stewart referring to Carlson by a rather unflattering term.
You know what's interesting, though? You're as big a on your show as you are on any show.
The segment immediately went viral, and CNN canceled the program in 2005, with the network noting that they agreed with Stewart's criticisms.
Number 2, September 11th response, The Daily Show.
9/11 affected nearly all TV shows produced in New York, and The Daily Show was no exception. The show returned on September 20th, 2001 for the first time since the attacks, opening with a monologue from Stewart.
I wanted to tell you why I grieve. But why I don't despair.
After offering condolences to the victims, he began to break down. To Jon, this was not a time for despair, because he saw the purpose of America realized. He closed the emotional monologue with a message of hope, saying what the view from his home is now.
The view from the south of Manhattan is now the Statue of Liberty. You can't beat that.
Stewart's response to the tragedy set the tone of the show for years to come, and served as a reminder of how powerful he can be, even when he's not telling jokes.
And that's why we've already won. They can't, it's light. It's democracy, we've already won.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1, advocating for first responders.
One of the causes that seems closest to Jon Stewart's heart is healthcare coverage for the 9/11 first responders.
And what better reason to work together than on a bill providing health care for 9/11 first responders and relief workers currently suffering chronic health problems.
Because of their work at Ground Zero after the September 11th attacks, these members of the NYPD and Fire Department of New York face health risks, including respiratory illnesses and cancer. On The Daily Show, Stewart campaigned tirelessly for the Zadroga Act, a bill that would provide financial aid to those affected, while also criticizing Congress for dragging their heels and other media members for not covering the subject more.
Imagine the seismic pundit ripples of anger when politicians put craven political expedience over the well-being of our nation's most deserving heroes.
Ultimately, the bill was passed in 2011. However, Stewart was back in front of lawmakers in 2019 to oppose cuts to the 9/11 Victim Fund and to ensure compensation past the 2020 expiry date.
Behind me, a filled room of 9/11 first responders. And in front of me, a nearly empty Congress.
Stewart choked up as he chastised the half-empty room, earning himself a standing ovation.
They did their jobs with courage, grace, tenacity, humility. 18 years later, do yours.
What Jon Stewart moment do you always return to? Let us know in the comments.
Thank you. Good night.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.